How's it going, guys? Dylan here, and today we're talking about traditional versus digital marketing, which one you should choose and which one's going to help your business. Before we get too crazy, let's talk about digital, let's talk about traditional, what is what, and why I would choose it. Now, when I'm talking about traditional marketing, I'm talking about direct mail, newspaper and magazine ads, billboards, and radios and TV. Now, what all of those have in common, in my opinion, are they're overpriced. They're very expensive. Typically, when you're looking at doing a commercial or even a print ad, they're going to be a little bit overpriced for what the actual return is. And not only that, but they're very hard to track what the actual return is unless you're using some form of promo code or an actual mailer to where they can bring it in. But even then, you're spending a lot of money to get very little return. And when you're a small business vying for attention, that money could be better used somewhere else. Now, I'm not completely against traditional media. There are ways in that it works. There are industries in where it could work still. And I'm not saying that it doesn't work. It's just too expensive. Across the board, it's too pricey to really get an effective direct mail piece to go out, get the return that you need. And as a small business, you have to be putting your dollars where it's going to get the most attention and bring you the most business. Even when you're a large company, you still don't want your money just going in the trash. And when I'm talking about digital marketing, I'm talking about banner ads, Google advertising, and social media. Now, there's a lot of talk about social media, and there should be, because it's one of the most predominant places that you can advertise your business today. One of the reasons why social media does so well is because that's where all of the attention is. That's where people are at. Now, when you're at home watching TV, let's say you're watching the NBA playoffs, are you really watching the commercials, or do you either change the channel or just pull out your phone and start scrolling through Instagram or Facebook? Me personally, I'm not watching the commercials at all. I will occasionally tune into a commercial, and the only reason for that is because I'm a marketer. If I find something that's interesting to me from a marketing standpoint, I'll watch it, but from a consumer aspect, I don't care about commercials at all. Now, the difference between that and social media is that social media, when done correctly, can be a lot more like organic content. It can function very similarly to that to help boost what you're actually doing. So the forms of digital marketing that I actually look at are text marketing or SMS marketing, email marketing, and yes, email does still work. It's not quite like the 90s. Now, granted, I wasn't sending emails in the 90s, I was just a kid, but with email marketing in the 90s, you're seeing companies push out 60, 70, 80, even 90% open rates. You're not going to come even close to that number for the most part today. A good number nowadays is actually 30% for email marketing. But on top of that, social media advertising is very, very good. And why do I usually recommend those three things as well as Google advertising? Because there's a lot of attention on those platforms, and they're still priced very reasonably. Aside from Google ads, they're actually very underpriced in terms of how much you can get in terms of attention and results for how much you're going to put into it. Now, again, a lot of those things can be very difficult, and it does take a skill set, but it's a skill set that is free to learn, free to test, and free to implement. Once you start putting some ad dollars behind it, that's where it starts to gain a little bit of traction. Now, for small businesses, the benefits of doing these digital platforms like text, email, Google ads, and social media ads is that you're going to be able to do a lot of those things. You're going to be able to learn how it works for a very small amount of money. When you're a small company trying to grow and trying to put your assets into other things to help the business grow, you don't want to waste any money on advertising. And you're definitely going to do that when you're doing some more traditional things like direct mail or even TV. Let's touch on each one. Now, with text marketing, texting is a much more personalized version of communicating with somebody. There are a lot of regulations and things around text marketing that you need to be careful of, but they're very easy to work with, especially if you're using a platform that actually knows what they're doing. Now, with text and email, you can actually get really personal with your audience. You can include their name with merge tags and all sorts of different things to make it a more personal experience rather than just sending out a generic message. The benefit of that is that you're going to connect with them a little bit more. Texting is a great way to build a community as well. It's a very personal platform where you can personalize a lot of that information and actually chat with them one-on-one if you have the right technology. Email, when done correctly, does have some great conversions to it and also allows you to have a personal aspect to it with things like merge tags, specific imagery or even wording for different demographics, and then the ability to separate based on different audiences. Now, the final piece, social media, is where I tend to push many small businesses towards. There's a lot of opportunity for personalization here. Now, even though you're posting something and it can be seen by anybody, you can customize the message, and that's especially the case in terms of advertising. Now, when you're doing organic, that's not always the case. You can't technically personalize it based on their interest. But with how technology has moved, with how social media has moved to more of an interest-based performance, thanks to TikTok over the last couple of years, we've actually seen a lot more of that organic content hitting well in terms of who it's meant for. So you can personalize a lot of that content and it reach the correct audience more efficiently thanks to the interest-based social media platforms. Now, I see a lot, I read a lot, I hear a lot about how some more recent updates to the iOS platforms make it harder to track ROI on social media, but it's not any more difficult than trying to track ROI on a commercial or a billboard, is it? Now, tracking your ROI is incredibly important, especially as a business owner. You want to understand how well that dollar is working for you to determine exactly which dollar is going to be the most efficient and where the advertising is going to be most efficient to get the most out of your marketing. Now, although there are roadblocks in place like the iOS 14.5 upgrade that limit your tracking ability on Facebook and Instagram advertising, the ability to track that ROI is still a lot better than some of the more traditional platforms. The other benefit to social media advertising is that you're going to get almost instantaneous results. Now, obviously, you can work a long time on a commercial, you can get out and you're going to still get pretty instant results, but it's going to be a much longer play, especially if you're using that commercial for a longer period of time. But the benefit of doing something with social media is that you're going to start to see those results pretty instantaneously. So you're going to start to see what's working, what isn't, and make very quick adjustments. One of the things that I like about social media so much in terms of both advertising and organic posting is that it gives you more shots. If you're working on a commercial, at the very least, even if you're only advertising with a local company, it's going to take a couple of weeks for production, some reviews on how it's going to look, and then the commercial runs for however long you have it run, and that's really your only at bat. So the downturn to that is if the creative was terrible, it's not going to hit, and you really only get one chance to do it. The benefit with social media is that you can hit that content multiple times to see if it worked. If it didn't, you can start making small adjustments, posting it again to get it to work. You can get that creative to get exactly where you want it, to where now it's going to start actually producing results organically, and then that's where you can start pushing money behind it in the paid platform. Make it look less like an ad and more like organic content. You'll see performance start to go up. On that topic, it is much more difficult than doing something like a commercial or a radio ad. You're doing that one time. You're sending copy into your radio advertiser once for them to do a script read. You're sending content into a commercial one time. You're planning it out once, and then you let it go. Sure, you can edit that, but it's, again, going to take a little bit of time, especially if you're a larger company spending a large amount of money. You don't want to take all that time for it to fall flat. The benefit of social media is you can do all of this with just a little bit of time and a tiny bit of money to get the production going. And then once you understand what creative is working, then you can start pushing a little bit more money behind it and make that money work better for you. Now, again, I am not saying that traditional is terrible. I'm just saying that your dollar can be better spent somewhere else. Now, if you like this kind of content and want to learn more about how social and digital marketing can help benefit your business, small or large, hit the subscribe button, shoot me a message or throw a comment below, and let's chat.